Sarah Miller lived a peaceful life in the suburbs of Chicago. She was a vibrant woman, always full of energy and smiles, but everything changed when she was diagnosed with a serious health issue. The illness, coupled with exhausting treatments, caused Sarah to gain weight rapidly. In a matter of months, she found herself obese and grappling with a reality she had never imagined. Her husband, Tom, watched Sarah's transformation with growing disdain. He avoided being at home, and his absences became more frequent. Sarah desperately tried to hold on to their marriage, but she felt Tom slipping away. On a cold winter night, the truth came to light. Tom arrived home late, wearing an indifferent expression that Sarah was beginning to recognize. "Tom, we need to talk," Sarah said, her voice trembling with emotion. "What's happening to us?" Tom sighed deeply, avoiding Sarah's gaze. "Sarah, I can't do this anymore. I can't be with you like this." Those words cut Sarah like a knife. She felt her heart shatter, but she tried to maintain composure. "Tom, I know things are tough, but I need you now more than ever. Please, don't leave me." Tom finally looked at her, his eyes cold and distant. "I've met someone. She's young, beautiful, and thin. I can't stay here pretending everything's okay. I need to think about myself." Sarah felt the ground crumble beneath her feet. Tears streamed down her face as she pleaded, "Tom, please, we can get through this together. I'll get better, I promise." But Tom had already made his decision. He stood up, grabbed his already packed suitcase, and headed for the door. "I'm sorry, Sarah. I hope you find someone who can make you happy." And with that, he left, leaving Sarah alone and helpless. The silence of the house now seemed deafening. Sarah fell to her knees on the living room floor, her body racked with sobs. The pain of betrayal and the feeling of abandonment were overwhelming. Sarah felt ugly and guilty for losing her husband. The feeling of being worthless, of not mattering, consumed her. She wondered how she could survive this. Days turned into weeks, and Sarah continued to live in a state of apathy. Each morning was a struggle to get out of bed, and each night was a confrontation with loneliness. But an unexpected encounter changed everything. On a cloudy day, Sarah decided to leave the house and go to the local cafe, something she hadn't done in months. Sitting alone at a corner table, she tried to distract herself with a book, but sadness still weighed heavy on her heart. That's when Jack walked into the cafe. He was a middle-aged man with a warm smile and a gentle gaze. Seeing Sarah alone, he approached. "Mind if I sit here?" Jack asked, pointing to the empty chair beside her. Sarah hesitated for a moment but nodded. "Sure." Jack pulled the chair and sat down, observing her carefully. "Do you come here often?" he asked, trying to start a conversation. "I used to," Sarah replied, not very convincingly. "Lately, I've been avoiding going out." Jack noticed the sadness in her voice and decided not to press. "I understand. Sometimes life gives us reasons to hide, but it can also surprise us with moments of beauty." Sarah looked up, curious about his sincerity. "Are you always this optimistic?" He chuckled softly. "Not always, but I've learned that hope is a choice. And you? What brought you here today?" Sarah sighed, feeling a lump form in her throat. The need to escape from home, even if just for a little while. The walls seemed to be closing in on me. Jack nodded, understanding the feeling. Sometimes, stepping out is the first step to finding something better. Over time, Sarah and Jack began to meet regularly at the cafe. Each conversation was a small step out of the darkness surrounding Sarah. She opened up about her struggles and the pain of being abandoned by Tom. Jack listened attentively, never judging, always offering words of encouragement. One day, after one of these conversations, Jack invited her for a walk in the park. "I know it seems hard, but fresh air can work wonders. How about a quick stroll?" Sarah hesitated, but something about Jack's sincerity motivated her. "All right, let's give it a try." Walking through the park brought a sense of freedom that Sarah hadn't felt in a long time. Jack's constant support, his comforting presence, began to reignite a small flame of hope in her heart. During one of these walks, Sarah stopped and looked at Jack. "Why are you doing this for me? We barely know each other," she said, with a mix of gratitude and confusion. Jack smiled gently. "Because I see someone who deserves to be happy. We all deserve a chance to start over, Sarah, and I want to be here to help you find that chance." Jack's sincerity touched Sarah deeply. For the first time in a long time, she felt that maybe, just maybe, there could be a better future waiting for her. The meetings with Jack and the walks in the park began to become a routine for Sarah. Every step taken alongside him was a step further away from the darkness she had sunk into. Jack, with his constant and encouraging presence, became a pillar of strength and a beacon of hope. Determined to change her life, Sarah decided to adopt healthier habits. She started attending a local gym and following a balanced diet. In the beginning, each workout was a battle. Her body, once accustomed to inertia, now faced physical challenges with difficulty. But Jack was always by her side, offering support and motivation. "Come on, Sarah, you can do it," he exclaimed as she pushed herself on the treadmill. With time, the results began to show. Sarah not only lost weight, but also regained her energy and vitality. Her confidence grew with every pound shed, and she began to feel more like the vibrant woman she had been before. One day, after an especially intense workout, Sarah and Jack decided to grab a juice at a nearby cafe. Sitting at an outdoor table, bathed in the soft light of late afternoon, they talked about Sarah's journey. "You're amazing, Sarah. I'm so proud of you," Jack said with a warm smile. Sarah smiled back, still catching her breath from the exercise. "Thank you, Jack. I couldn't have done it without you." Jack shook his head. "You've always had this strength within you. You just needed someone to remind you it was there." Sarah fell silent for a moment, reflecting on Jack's words. "You know, I never thought I could feel like this again. So alive, so capable." Jack took Sarah's hand, squeezing it gently. "You deserve all of this and more, Sarah, and I'll be here every step of the way." Days turned into weeks, and Sarah continued to transform. She enrolled in yoga classes, started cooking healthy meals at home, and even picked up old hobbies like painting. Each new activity was a step away from the painful past and closer to a bright future. A defining moment in Sarah's transformation occurred during a walk in the park, where she and Jack often spent their afternoons. They stopped at a bench, watching children play and birds sing. "Jack, I don't know how to thank you for all of this. You've changed my life," Sarah said, her eyes welling up with gratitude. Jack smiled, looking deeply into Sarah's eyes. "You've changed your own life, Sarah. I've just been here to remind you of how amazing you are." Sarah felt a wave of emotion wash over her. For the first time in a long time, she believed Jack's words. She wasn't just the woman who had been abandoned and betrayed. She was a survivor, a fighter, and she was ready to embrace her new self with all the strength she had. With renewed confidence and rising health, Sarah felt more ready than ever to face the future. And beside Jack, she knew that no matter what came their way, she was prepared to tackle any challenge. With her health and confidence restored, Sarah began to reflect more deeply on her past. The relationship with Tom, once seen as a safe harbor, now seemed like a prison from which she had escaped. Jack's love and support helped her see the truth that had been obscured by pain and insecurity. One evening, Sarah and Jack were sitting on the couch in Sarah's house, enjoying a cup of tea. The room was bathed in the soft light of the sunset, creating a cozy atmosphere. Sarah looked at Jack, feeling grateful for everything he had done for her. "Jack, I've been thinking a lot about my marriage to Tom," she began, her voice soft but firm. Jack nodded, encouraging her to continue. "And what have you discovered?" Sarah took a deep breath. I realized that I was in an abusive relationship. Tom didn't love me for who I was, but for what I could provide for him. He stayed with me as long as I had money to support him, and the moment my health declined and I couldn't sustain him anymore, he left. Jack took Sarah's hand, offering his silent support. You deserve so much more than that, Sarah. You deserve someone who loves you unconditionally, for who you are, not what you can offer. Sarah felt a wave of emotion upon hearing those words. I couldn't see that before. I was so caught up in the idea that I needed to be perfect to be loved. But now I see that the problem was never my weight or my health. The problem was always him. Jack gently stroked Sarah's hand. You're an amazing woman, Sarah, and don't let anyone convince you otherwise. Sarah smiled, feeling lighter. Thank you, Jack. I think for the first time in a long time, I'm starting to believe that. The revelation about her relationship with Tom gave Sarah a new perspective on her life. She began to realize that true worth came from within. She didn't need external validation to feel worthy of love and respect. In the days that followed, Sarah began to make decisions that reflected her new outlook on life. She decided to sell the house she shared with Tom and buy a smaller, cozier place, full of light, symbolizing her fresh start. Jack helped her every step of the way, making the transition as smooth as possible. One day, while packing boxes in the new house, Sarah came across an old wedding album. She flipped through the pages, reliving moments that now seemed like they belonged to another life. With a sigh, she closed the album and looked at Jack. I think I'm ready to leave this behind, she said, determined. Jack smiled, proud of the strength he saw in Sarah. And I'll be here, by your side, every step of this new journey. From that moment on, Sarah committed herself to living her life fully, without the shadows of the past haunting her. She knew she had a long road ahead, but with Jack by her side, she felt ready to face any challenge. The scene ended with Sarah and Jack walking hand in hand through the new neighborhood, the sunlight illuminating their faces. Sarah finally felt free, ready to embrace the future and leave the past where it belonged. Months had passed since Sarah had left her old home and started her new life. She was radiant, happy, and healthier than ever. Her relationship with Jack flourished, and she felt ready for whatever the future held. Then, on a sunny afternoon, an unexpected visitor knocked on her door. Sarah opened the door and was stunned to see Tom, disheveled and clearly desperate. His hair was unkempt, and his clothes were sloppy, a shadow of the arrogant man who had left months before. Sarah, I need to talk to you, Tom pleaded, his voice broken. Sarah watched him for a moment, surprised by his presence, but she kept her composure. What do you want, Tom? Tom sighed deeply, his gaze filled with regret. I made a mistake. The young woman I left with, she left me. My business failed. I'm broke, and I have no one. Please, Sarah, I need a second chance. Sarah felt a mix of emotions upon hearing Tom's words. He had returned, but not out of love, but out of desperation. The certainty that he hadn't changed, only his circumstances, filled her with a calm resolve. Tom, come in, Sarah said, gesturing for him to sit in the living room. Jack, who was in the kitchen, entered the room upon hearing the conversation. Who's he? Tom asked, noticing Jack's presence. This is Jack, Sarah said, her voice firm. He's my boyfriend. Tom looked at Jack with disdain, but quickly turned his attention back to Sarah. Sarah, please. I know I messed up, but we can try again. We can reclaim what we had. Sarah shook her head slowly. Tom, what we had was never real. You used me, abandoned me when I needed you the most. And now, you're only here because you need something from me. Tom tried to interject, but Sarah continued, I found someone who loves me for who I am, not for what I can offer. Jack stood by my side when I was at my worst, and he deserves to be by my side now that I'm at my best. Jack stepped forward, holding Sarah's hand in a gesture of support, Sarah is an amazing woman, and I won't let anyone make her feel anything less than that. Tom looked at Sarah, realizing there was no longer a place for him there. Please, Sarah, just one chance. Sarah took a deep breath and, with a calm that came from her newfound inner strength, said, Tom, there's no room for you in my life anymore. I'm finally happy, and I won't risk that for someone who only brought me pain. I hope you find your way, but it won't be by my side. Tom, with no other choice, slowly got up and left the house, his hopes crushed. Sarah felt a profound relief seeing him leave, knowing she had made the right decision. She looked at Jack and smiled, feeling finally free from the weight of the past. Thank you for being by my side, Jack. I could never have done this without you. Jack smiled back, squeezing Sarah's hand. You've always had this strength within you, Sarah. I'm just happy to be able to be by your side. They stood there in silence, savoring the moment of peace and triumph. Sarah knew that with Jack by her side, she was ready for whatever the future held. And so, with a renewed heart and a new outlook on life, Sarah prepared to embrace the future with confidence and hope. Did you enjoy this story of overcoming and transformation? Then don't forget to like the video and leave your comment telling us what you thought or proposing new stories. And to not miss any exciting content, subscribe to the channel and activate notifications. Until next time on Moving